Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at an independent role-playing game. This week I delved into the realm of the cheap, to take a look at Solmec, Colony Adrift. Developed and published by Octopus 8 Studios, it was released on Steam on September 5th, 2017, and is available for just 99 cents US as of this recording. I was actually kind of torn about this one, because usually, even for the cheaper offerings, I prefer to cover games that have a more clearly defined positive set of aspects, in the hopes of giving them what little exposure I can. Solmec, Colony Adrift, is one of 3 Solmec games involved in the same game universe, all released at the same time for the same price. One an action-adventure game, one a strategy resource management game, and this one, which is something of a procedurally generated RPG. Colony Adrift is, I gotta admit, not great, but it does have some promise, and I'm kind of intrigued about the world detailed in these 3 games, and I really do enjoy some of the concepts in the gameplay itself, but I'll get more about that in a moment. The game starts with a handful of Stone Age villagers being selected to board a strange, otherworldly spacefaring creature. These things are huge, and then they go ahead and create a village upon its body. As the creature passes through space, a dark force called the Rot builds up on it, and it's up to the villagers to clean it off the creature by effectively defeating rot-infested monsters living upon the same creature they are. After selecting which of these spacefaring creatures, or Ancazal, that you wish to adventure on, a hex map is set up for your party to explore. You can uncover resources, engage in battles with monsters or rot nests, or find events to engage in. You can also return to your home village to manage your party. Resources, once gathered, are then used at the village to improve your party members' stats, or their weapon damage. Theoretically, different weapons have different colors, which can be used against creatures with different colored shrouds to either do more or less damage, depending on where the colors are in relation to one another on a cyclical chart. Resources may be collected from the map, given as a reward after combat, or found during adventure events. Adventure events are usually short, choice-based text interludes, generally with custom artwork. Selecting different responses may grant the party different resources, different weapon types, new party members, or plunge them into combat. Combat, whether from an event, an encounter with an enemy, or a rot nest, is undertaken on a simple grid of squares. You can select 3 party members to engage in the combat, which is then conducted with each side taking a turn for all of their members. Each character has certain numbers of action points which they can then use to move or attack, or use rituals. Movement is done 1 square at a time. Attacking requires the target to be within a set range, or depending on the class of the character, and the rituals vary in their effects, ranging from spell-like effects to additional tactical movement. Each class has certain physical abilities, but is mostly defined by their weapon type. There's a short-ranged warrior class armed with a club that can attack only those adjacent to it. There's a medium-ranged warrior armed with a spear that can only attack in the 4 cardinal directions, but at a range of 2 tiles. And then there's a ranged attack that can attack anything in a diamond 3 tiles away. Since you can only have 3 warriors in combat at a time, you'll want to adjust your tactics and which warriors you select according to which enemies you'll be facing. At any time, you can mouse over the enemy or your allies to gain additional information about them. While each class can equip only 1 type of weapon, there are several flavors of each type, each representing a different color, according to the aforementioned strengths and weaknesses in the cyclical chart. You can improve a particular weapon's attack by spending resources upon it separately from those you use to upgrade your warrior's stats. This is all well and good in theory, and largely why I chose to cover the game. The concept of some sort of spacefaring creature with a tribe of prehistoric warriors living on it in some sort of symbiotic relationship is actually a novel one, and the combat system, utilizing a mix of tactical movement, choice of classes, and an expanded rock-paper-scissors style color cycle, is really, really neat on the face of it. But the game is plagued with some issues. First and foremost in the irritating department is the lack of visible and audible feedback for, well, basically anything. This is most troubling because amateur as the game's graphics and sound are, they're actually not that bad, certainly not grating. But in order to determine what characters an enemy is attacking or how much damage anyone takes, you're having to constantly mouse over potential targets after every round. There's no sense of getting hit or hitting an enemy, but rather just a token sliding across a board pretty much instantly. Furthermore, certain effects are unexplained. For instance, in several combats, I thought my characters had a decent amount of hit points left, only to see them completely wiped out with no explanation in one round. While in other combats, I saw characters go down, only to be selectable and movable on the next turn. Because of the lack of feedback, I don't know if this is an effect of one of their abilities, or simply the result of a bug. And it seems that there's a fair number of bugs. Combat abilities will move characters, and if this happens to move them into the same square as another character, they seem to become entangled and unable to part from one another, resulting both the characters moving and attacking at once for the duration of the combat. In the event that you wipe out, you can actually just reload the game, which starts the characters in the last space they were on the prior board, except this time the entire board is completely respawned with new resources and combat. The character roster will be the same as in the prior game, so if you picked up people from events, they'll be in your party, but they'll all be unupgraded, they'll all be at their basic level. Further, the first battle you engage in, regardless of where it happens, will end up being with the enemies that killed you in the prior game. So if it was a tough battle then, it'll be a terrible battle this time around with an unaugmented party. There's more minor bugs here and there, although those were the really awkward ones that just jumped out at me. I like the concept. I like the story that they're trying to tell here with these inhabited space monster things, and the system, on paper at least, genuinely has promise. The graphics are, as I stated, somewhat amateurish, but they're not abysmal. I kind of feel like the developer would have been better served to pick one of these 3 games that they put forth and just concentrating on doing that very well. Then get the other 2 into play afterwards. As it stands, I have a hard time recommending this one, except that at only 99 cents you can derive a certain amount of entertainment from it, which may be worth your money, and that does salvage it somewhat. If in the future some of the awkwardness in the combat system is relieved and some of the bugs fixed and maybe more feedback added, then I could see this actually being a bit of an easier recommendation all in all. If the developer sees this, and it happens on more than one occasion that indie devs have run across my videos, you have a good core here. You have an interesting story here. Focus a bit more on the polish, and I believe you'll be golden. I do wish you luck with this. Anyway, for now I'm going to call it here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday's Solmec Colony Adrift. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. If you're feeling particularly generous, feel free to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/rpgcrawler. Until next time, take care and goodbye.